Hey everybody, this is Erica from In the Company of Cards, back with some more Lenormand readings. Hope everybody's well on this hump day. Um, if you're new, welcome. If you've been here a minute, welcome back. Thank you so much for liking, sharing, subscribing, and especially thank you for all your comments. I read all of them and really appreciate 99.9% of them. So thank you so much for that. In case you don't know, I am the author of Erica's Lenormand of Hope. This is the deck that I use, and you can get it at the link under every video. There's a link, a button. Push the button, it will take you to wherever you need to go. Also the author of The Language of Lenormand. So if you'd like to learn to read Lenormand the way that I do, which is not 100% traditional, it's a riff on the traditional, but it's very accurate. And Lenormand is a very friendly system. I encourage you to check out the book. You can get it on audio, you can get it via Kindle, you can get it the hardcover, obviously. Um, so if this interests you, get my book or my deck. There are, by the way, many beautiful Lenormand decks out there in the world. Mine is just one. So if you just, were to do a search of Lenormand, you would find that that's the case. Anyway, I just wanted to look at a few things. The first, we know that 47 has, quote, fired Lisa Cook. She is one of the board of governors of the Federal Reserve. We know that 47 wants the Fed to lower interest rates, and the Fed has declined that suggestion many times. We know that 47 cannot get rid of Jerome Powell. I mean, he just can't do it. Jerome Powell is a real hero. He's just minding his business and doing his job and shaking his head no every time 47 says something wrong that he wants Jerome Powell to agree with. Jerome Powell will just go like this. So he has moved on. To someone on the board of governors, the Federal Reserve, and this is Lisa Cook, who comes from that group that probably 47 hates most in the world. This is a group that I am a member of, which is to say, he hates Black women. She is a Black woman. 47 has found a flunky, someone in his administration, who has made the claim that Lisa Cook uh, falsified mortgage information many, many years ago. And she has never been accused of this. She's never been convicted of this. This is just, something probably made up out of whole cloth. Never been, this has never come up before. Not to mention the fact that it is not under the purview of 47. Of course, he thinks everything is under his purview, but it is not in the purview of the president to fire a governor of the board of on the Federal Reserve. He cannot do it, which that's what that means. He cannot do it. He's not allowed to. Of course, he says that he's allowed to do whatever he wants because that's how he has read or interpreted the Supreme Court's latitude that they've given him. Anyway, Lisa Cook has said, you know, he says he's firing me, but he can't fire me, and so therefore I will continue to do my job. Further, she has sued him. So I would like to know how that will go. How will Lisa Cook fare? Um, since 47 has decided that she is the latest Black woman in his sights. Poor thing. Or him, I mean, because uh, I get why he doesn't like us. We're just too much. Too much excellence. He just can't handle it. Anyway, let's see how Lisa Cook will fare. I'm going to use the older black woman for her. Well, there's only black people in the deck, so I'm going to use the older woman for her. Okay. All right. So I didn't have too much to do, too many cards to flip. She was the second card, but that means that she is the second card because there's only one card in front of her. That means she is not the card in the middle. So, that's always interesting, right? Okay. So we have the moon, we have Lisa Cook, we have the tree, we have the snake, and we have the letter. Now, I'm going to pull some clarifiers before I say more about these cards, but I will move the camera so you can watch me pull those. Okay. So I pulled a bunch. Didn't think I would, but there we go. So the moon. The moon is about reputation. Obviously, what he's trying to do is to besmirch her reputation, uh, and say that there is paperwork that is out of order. Okay. Um, Here she is as the second card, and here he is trying to cause her trouble. But the card in the middle is the tree. And I am reminded, and I think I mentioned this the last time that I did a video Monday, um, about Chicago. I always think of the song my mother used to sing, we shall not be moved. Just like a tree standing by the water, we shall not be moved. Her tenure at the Fed, it's a long tenure, and she's not meant to be, her tenure's not up until 2038. You know how long that is? 2038. And I mention that because the tree is the card for a long time. So she's meant to be in that position for a long time, which of course is a thorn in 47's side. So he's decided he's going to cause trouble for her by digging into, or I'm even going to say, fabricating documentation that would cause her reputation to take a hit. Again, this is out of whole cloth, coming out of nowhere. But like I said, he hates us. And by us, yes, I mean Black women. So I pulled three clarifiers for each of the cards. So again, remember, this is the card for reputation, the moon. That's what it means. It's how she is seen. Now she is very well respected, as all of the members, I would assume, all of the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve are respected. You don't just get in that position for no reason. So the clarifiers are the mountain, the sun, and the star. So here's her reputation. He's trying to block her good reputation, but it's as though we are able to see over that mountain very clearly. And I think that with Moon mirroring the star, I think in the end she will be just fine. I do. Now, here she is, second card, and we have the rider, the anchor, and the coffin. This just speaks to what he wants to do. So here's Lisa Cook, and the message she's trying to send is one that will, he hopes, sink her, bury her. That's what he wants to do. In the center, we have the tree. This is for the long tenure that she has. She is respected by everybody and loved and appreciated for the work that she does. The Federal Reserve is its own thing. They are not beholden to any Democratic Party, any president, nothing. It's part of why their tenure is so long. Um, but again, this is the public. This is people. We are happy with the job that she's done, just as we're happy with the job that Jerome Powell has done. But you know who wants to muck things up? The fourth card is the snake. This is the trouble, of course, that he can cause her because now, of course, now she's got to defend herself. She's got to sue him back. She's got to, her attention is now diverted from her work to having to, lion tame this animal. Uh, the clarifiers are clouds, lily, and ring. And here's what I think, that whatever trouble he tries to cause, whatever confusion he tries to sow, she's going to be cool as a cucumber and she will retain her position. Here's the final card in the original line. We have the letter. Clarifiers are the dog, the fish, and the key. So this is her mortgage paperwork, also her countersuit against him. These are the lawyers. And again, Federal Reserve, it deals with money. This is a money question, this mortgage thing. But I think that she will come out just fine. I love seeing the key here, especially when I mirror it with the very first card. Her reputation will stay intact. So, you know, bring it on, 47. I think Lisa Cook will keep her job. I think it will be proven in a court of law that he has no standing to fire her, nor any cause. She's just doing her job. But she will defend herself and she will be successful defending herself. Okay. The next thing I thought I would look at is the Abrego Garcia case. So you recall I did many, many readings, if you've been with me for a while, on this case. They botched it really badly. Uh, sent him to El Salvador and then they couldn't find him, and then they did find him, and they shouldn't have sent him, and they brought him back. And anyway, currently, here's the case. Here's where it stands in the Abrego Garcia case. Currently, he is in the United States. The United States made him an offer, and the offer was because they don't want him, the government does not want him in our country, does not want him in the United States. I'm going to suggest that it's largely because he has become a symbol of how this entire immigration, the handling of immigration and immigrants has just been a disaster from beginning to end. He's emblematic of that, and they want him out. So they made him an offer, and the offer is if you sign a paper saying that you're guilty of trafficking, helping people come into the state, into the country illegally. If you sign that, then we will still deport you, but we'll deport you to Costa Rica, where at least you can speak the language. He has so far refused to sign that paper because he says he's not guilty. So the government alternative is, okay, if you won't sign that paper, then what we want to do is deport you to Uganda, which is, of course, in Africa. If you know anything about Uganda, it is an incredibly repressive regime. Needless to say, they don't speak Spanish in Uganda, and it's a very it's repressive. I mean, for example, if you are gay, I think that you can face the death penalty in a place like Uganda. So what would happen is he would be put on a plane, sent to Uganda, and the paperwork would be handed over, and then the U.S. would have considered that its duty is discharged, and whatever Uganda would want to do with him, namely put him in jail, release him out into the wild, of a country he knows nothing about, or whether they would repatriate him um, to his original homeland, we wouldn't have any control over that. So anyway, this went to court, and the judge has said that that they they're not convinced that the government has anybody's best interests at heart except their own ends. And so there will be a hearing, and the next hearing is on October 6th. So we have a little over a month to wait until this is adjudicated. I'm assuming once and for all. But I would like to know, I'm just going to look at him. Now he's a pretty young guy. And so I'm going to use the young man for him. And I just want to see what is coming his way um, as of October 6th. Okay. So we're looking for the young man and how his case will be settled. Okay, so this stands for Abrego Garcia. Okay. So we have the star, the cross, Abrego Garcia, the anchor, and the moon. So, this is the card for his future. And I can mirror it with the last card, which is the moon, his name, his reputation, what he stands for, what he represents, etc. So all of that really is what is in the in contention, we'll say. Second card is the cross. He's already suffered. I mean, he's already spent time in that jail. Remember that all those men were deported to that Venezuelan jail. Um, so he has suffered. He's also continuing to suffer because he doesn't know what his future will be. Now, we have this anchor, and I'm going to say that I don't love that I can mirror it with the cross because I don't think this means that he will live happily ever after in the US, which I'm sure would be his druthers. This is probably what he would prefer. But I don't see it. It feels very much like being weighted down, being harassed and hounded, and just being continuing to be a pawn. I was going to say a fawn, but he probably feels like a fawn, like a deer lost in headlights, but a pawn in 47's mission to rid the country of, you know, color, foreigners, whatever. Um, and then this moon card, he doesn't really know where can he lay his head? You know, where can he unpack his bags? All of that is still up in the air for a while. So we go back to this star card. Now, this is also the card for hope, um, as well as for the future. But anyway, the clarifiers for it are the mountain, the dog, and the child. So if we want to think about this as his future, and if we want to think about this as any degree of hope that he has, once again, there's been a continuance now till October. So he's going to have to wait another month or so before before things are move forward. This is the card for attorneys, but this is very interesting. I think that if the two alternatives to date are patriation to um, Costa Rica or Uganda, uh, there might be another option that pops up in the next 6 weeks. So we'll see. Here he is, feeling the pain of this disequilibrium, these shifting sands, not knowing. Remember the book? Even though we know books hold information, in Lenormand, the book is about things we don't know, things that are hidden, sometimes things that are secret, or things that are just not figured out yet. This is painful for him. Uh, Also, it's caused him to be depressed, which is natural. He just wants things to be settled, to just hurry up and get a decision from this judge that he hopes will be in his favor. And he, for once, gets some luck. Okay. Here he is in the center of the spread, and the clarifiers are the ship, the tree, and the key. Uh, this makes me think, well, that he will be not staying here, that he will be deported, but to somewhere where he sort of has roots. Now, that would be not Venezuela, but maybe El Salvador or even Costa Rica, where at least there are Hispanic roots. Um, so here's the key here. Now, again, remember with this child card, it made me feel there would be some new third option, but I don't see him in Uganda. If I think worst case scenario, because of course for him, best case scenario would be that he stays here. But with that ship, I don't see him staying here. I think that his best case scenario would be that he not have to sign the paper saying he's guilty, but that he is still deported, but to a Spanish-speaking country, and I think it would be Costa Rica. With that key there. The fourth card in our original line was the anchor, and the clarifiers are you know who, the ring, and clouds. So, you know, who is just stuck on this guy, wanting to make him a bad guy because, again, he represents all of the bad guys who are all of the immigrants that he's trying to deport. Um, but this is 47, again, wanting to muddy the waters, wanting to continue to make him seem the bad guy in this situation. But I don't think it works. I do think he'll be deported to Costa Rica without having to sign that paperwork. Here's the moon is our fifth card. Clarifiers for that are the birds, the house, and the garden. You know, how this is adjudicated um, says a lot about both this administration and immigrants. And I think that it will create a lot of buzz, a lot of talk. And these are the people. I just think that the fact that he's being deported in the first place doesn't bode well for the White House. But I do think that, again, this is the people. The people are building their case against 47 and against the administration. So this will have future ramifications for, you know, um, how this administration is perceived. But I do think that the of all of the scenarios that could happen for him, I think that he will end up in Costa Rica or El Salvador, because if that's the new thing, El Salvador, which is where he comes from. But remember, he left El Salvador. He may very well feel that he is not safe in El Salvador. So I'm thinking Costa Rica. Yeah. But we'll be able to know the answer to that, right, on October 6th. Okay. Um, Cards are falling. I don't want to lose any. Okay, I'm just shuffling them back into the deck so that for the next question. Okay, the next question, I'm not even sure what I want to ask. Well, I don't know if the cards will give me an answer, but anyway, I don't want to have go unaddressed. We'll just put it that way. This shooting in Minneapolis, there have been so many shootings. This one was in a church, so another shooting in a church. This was a Catholic church in Minneapolis. We are on a Wednesday, and so why were there people in a church? Because the church was attached to a school, and so before school, kids and adults, I mean, there were some old people there who were attending mass pre the school day. And apparently, the shots were fired into the stained glass windows, and there were a couple of deaths, and there were many people injured. Um, there was a lot of, you know, the gunmen also died, I'm assuming by their own hand. And there was a lot of reference to pronouncing. So it turns out, apparently, that there's a reason for that. It's because the shooter, who had a name that's sort of one of those ambiguous names. The first name is Robin, and come to find out, the shooter was transgender. Now, which on the one hand is neither here nor there. Transgender people have mental health issues just like the rest of the general population can have mental health issues. So, but I guess I just want to ask whether, and they were in their 20s, so they were, young. And I'm not going to pick a card to stand for that person, but I want to ask, I'll let Spirit pick all the cards, whether the cards can ascertain a motive behind this shooting. I haven't read that there has been one established, whether, there's any kind of paper trail that would let us know that yet. But I'm just going to ask the cards whether they can tell me whether there was a motive for this shooting. I mean, I'm not going to go through the thoughts and prayers that you're going to hear from the Republicans. We know that these kinds of shootings are um, dual in nature, right? They're because people have mental health issues, and it's because of the proliferation of guns in our culture, our love of that Second Amendment. Uh, as prescient and visionary as the founders were, they were not on that score. And this is why the Constitution really needs to be seen as a living, breathing document that can be amended with the times. But of course, people like the conservatives on the Supreme Court, when it's convenient for them, they do not want to see the document as living and breathing. And they'll say, well, because there is such a thing as the Second Amendment, the founders meant that we should all be armed. Okay, well, anyway, I do not believe in the Second Amendment. I believe the Second Amendment needs to be abolished, but that's just me. I'm not one of those people who says, "Oh, no, no, I'm not trying to take your guns." No, if I could, I would take your guns. That's just me. But anyway, why this shooting? Let's just see what we get. Again, Spirit will pick all the cards. So interesting that we have cards that we've already seen because I did shuffle and just pulled from where I felt like the cards should come from. And it's interesting that we're seeing some of the same cards that we just saw. So we have the star, we have the anchor, we have the ship, we have the cross, and we have the dog. I will just say that I feel like this person felt that they had no future, right? I mean, if you're going off into the future, but you're stuck, you don't see a future. The central card is interesting, and I'll pull some clarifiers because here's the ship. So I guess, you know, feeling that you have no future, what's something drastic that you can do to move yourself forward? Well, you do this heinous act, and obviously then you're going to end up in the next world. If not by your own hand, then by the hand of the authorities. Clearly, this was a person who was in pain, feeling stuck, because I can mirror this second card with this fourth card. This is a card of pain. And you wouldn't do something like this if you were not in some sort of emotional distress, we'll say. Um, this last card is the card for the helper. Obviously, they needed mental health help. Um, Now I can mirror it with the star. I don't know. Let's pull some clarifiers and see what we get. I mean, the reason I hesitated to pull in the first place, but I didn't want to go, I didn't want to not address this question because it's been, all over the news all day, is that clearly this is a person who had a disordered mind. So trying to figure it out is not the easiest thing in the world because they might not have even known why they did it. Interesting that it's a church, and interesting that they were transgender, and interesting that the church has a particular stance on something like transgender rights. Um, so let's just pull a clarifier on each card. Okay, yeah, I mean, this is definitely clearly a tortured soul. I mean, so the first card, remember, it's the star. This is the card for, among other things, hope, a future, right? But look, the clarifier is the mice. Their hope had been eroded. The idea that they could have a future had been eroded. This is the card for worry, for anxiety, for stress. Um, so there's that. Second card, remember, is the anchor. They felt stuck and therefore confused because the clarifier is clouds. their thinking was not rational, obviously, because I mean, to do something like that, you're not in your right mind. So their thinking was cloudy. They felt stuck. You know, since they couldn't move forward in a good way, they did it in a bad way. Snake. And snake is trouble, problems, bad stuff. And that's what they did. They were in pain because they felt lonely and isolated. And let me just say that this card, together with this card, a lot of times this is a card that stands for religion, any religion. I understand that it's a Christian symbol, but this stands for any religion. Uh, and I think that they felt that they could not find help, support, succor, um, solace from the church because they wouldn't, right? Because who their very being is something that the church would say is anathema. And then the final card, remember, was the dog, and the dog is the card for help, support, counseling, guidance. The clarifiers are birds, mountain, and whip. I feel like this person may have felt bullied and excluded, and that people uh, they received harsh verbal messages. And again, they attributed that to the teachings of the church. So their theory was, if I hurt, you're going to hurt. And I'm going to hurt what you love the most, which is the children. So I'm sure in days to come, we will get more information. But that's what I get on that question. Again, I didn't want to leave the question unaddressed because this is something that everybody is horrified by and paying attention to today. Okay, two more. So I saw that photograph, well, it's video actually, of National Guards people um, with trash bags and those things that you poke at the trash and clean the trash up with. Now, I will say that they are doing a job that needs to be done in DC, but it's also true that this used to be the job of federal employees who have since been fired, right? Some of the people who were fired were people in sanitation who clean up trash. So, lacking criminals to catch, they are being the National Guard is being charged with beautification projects. Uh, I would like to know how they feel about that. And I'm gonna use I'm not gonna use the significator. I'm gonna let Spirit pick all the cards, and I just would like to know how the National Guard feels being put on trash duty. Because, the National Guard help in times of disaster, right? If there's storms or things like that, they come and they do the cleanup and they help people. But this is not that. I'm just saying. So yeah, I want to know, are they good with that? I mean, there is trash. It does need to be picked up. The people who normally pick it up have been fired. So how do they feel about being, ripped from their families, you know, transported to a different state? Not that DC is a state, you know what I mean? Transported to DC to do this kind of duty. How are they feeling? So we have the tree, the coffin, the birds, young woman, and then the sun. I'll probably pull a clarifier on at least one of the cards. But anyway, um, they feel like, I think with the tree and the coffin, they feel bored. They're bored. It's like, oh my God, we've been here for so long without seeing any kind of action. Like, why are we even here? And this is the card for boredom. So they're bored. I think that they are doing a lot of talking amongst themselves because that's what birds is. And I will pull a couple of clarifiers for this card because they've got a lot of free time to just shoot the breeze, either while they're picking up trash or when they're wherever they are sleeping, which I don't think is probably the nicest situation in the world. Um, so there's a lot of chatter among them. I think that they feel as though they are not being utilized to the best of their abilities because, this is not what they trained for. Um, this is a yin card. They don't, they're trained to be, um, proactive and yang and helping people, you know, and they just feel like they're not being used that way. And they know it. And they know that people are watching them being used in this way. So let's pull some cards on certainly what are they talking about? The birds. Yeah. And I'm going to pull cards on the sun. So, in terms of the things that they're talking about amongst themselves, it's what I said. We signed up to be National Guardsmen and women to help our fellow citizens in time of need. So, you know, we feel like we're being, this is the card for being, again, underutilized and demeaned. That's what they feel. They feel demeaned and they don't like it. It feels abusive. And what they're very aware of is that even though the National Guard is called out again for things like national disasters and in time of need, and the National Guard are your neighbors, right? They're your neighbors. Uh, they are part of the fabric of a community, but they are being ill used and made to look like the enemy of the people. And who's doing that? The White House. The White House. They don't like it. They don't like it. All right. So that will lead me to my final question for today. And I'll preface it by saying I have seen for years lots of retired military people of quite high rank who have um, made very clear their displeasure in the way that 47 talks about and employs the military. These are all retired, though. So, I mean, when you're retired, you can do whatever you want in terms of freedom of speech. But I would like to know about the active military. Uh, as the French might say, cap à pied, head to toe. I would like to know about the active military from the highest echelons to the lowest grunt. I would like to know if they are called upon to do violence to citizens of this country as a whole, how will they respond? How will they respond? The military are meant to obey orders, but not orders that are immoral or illegal. And I'm not saying that there aren't MAGA in the military. There probably are a lot, just like there are in, police forces um, and fire departments. You'll find a lot of MAGA people. But, the MAGA edges are frayed a little bit, what with everything going on, Epstein and all the rest of it. So I would like to know if push comes to shove, and for example, either in DC or in Chicago or New York or wherever, what will the military and the National Guard do if they are ordered to um, turn on the citizens? What will they do? We'll let spirit pick all the cards. Well, I see Pollyanna has come out to play today. That's okay. Didn't expect it, but here we are. Cross, clover, scale, lily, and stork. Okay, here's the thing. You know, ICE is losing people left and right, despite the inducements of things like bonus money and loan forgiveness. They are really losing people left and right. Uh, so even the hardcore MAGAs are saying, wait a minute, I didn't sign up for this. This is painful. It's painful for the military. It's painful for the National Guard. This is painful. And I feel like if they are called up to um, move against American citizens, that will cause the time frame for everything to speed up. Already you can feel things kind of being ratcheted up, sped up. And I think I love the center card because the center card tells us a lot. This is the card for justice. There will be military people and National Guardsmen and women who say, wait a minute, this is not right. This is not just. This is definitely not what I took an oath for. Uh, and the last two cards really surprised me in a good way. The lily, this is the card for peace. I think that a lot of them will say, I am not going to lift my bayonet, my rifle, and use them against my fellow citizens. I'm not going to do it. So court martial me, whatever you need to do, arrest me, whatever. I'm not doing that. And then we have the stork, positive change. So from this, all of this pain in the end, you know, something good is going to come. And I think it's that there will be a breaking point and the military will say, we're not going to participate in this. Um, I hope from my mouth, from my cards to God's ears. Um, I mentioned yesterday that I had never heard a governor urge citizenry towards uh, large scale passive resistance, as I heard J.B. Pritzker from Illinois encourage people. I've never heard that kind of thing before. But that is what's going to be called for, is people in the streets. Look at the video of what the South Koreans did when their government got almost taken over by a dictator. Everybody just dropped what they were doing and made their way to the Capitol, where the State House, wherever that usurper president was being holed up. And he's in jail now. So we need to take a lesson from other countries who have been through this. We are not exceptional in that way. We are as vulnerable to being taken over by a dictator as anybody else. And we're young enough to not have the history behind us. But we do have the history behind us of, a revolution. It's just that that tyrant was from another country. Um, I mean, these are great cards. From this pain, if these people who have sworn to protect and defend the United States of America and its citizens and the Constitution, etc., are asked to do something that is antithetical to that, as I like to say, quick, fast, and in a hurry, they will put the ship right. They will not participate. Um, we will choose peace and a more perfect union. But again, this is a big country, and there will be lots of different responses to whatever it is that he asks people to do. But in the end, I think people will choose peace. Um, we'll see. This is what we can also intend, but this is what the cards are showing me. So anyway, that's enough for Wednesday, I think. Tomorrow I won't be here, but you will be able to find me on Substack where I write. I use Lenormand, these cards. I also use tarot, and I use the African oracle called Adinkra. And I pull cards, and I have these cards um, kind of have a conversation with each other that brings me a message that I share with you in writing. So just go to Substack, look for In the Company of Cards. It's free to read what I write there. I write every week. And I will see you back here on Friday. So have a good rest of the week, and I will see you then. Take care.